Exam reforms like power sector reforms are essentially state level issues. But why do you think the central government is trying to get into it? The answer is simple. Just as a decade ago, Bijli Sarak Pani unseated governments, exam, Naukri, corruption can also unseat governments. This is the theme of our On Point today. As a maverick observer of the Indian economy, I like to take this walk, understanding, examining what are the issues that are a current challenge for the economy. And the best thing that happens to me is when I know that you are also participating in that walk, which is that when you press the bell icon, which comes up whenever a new issue hits the market, just help to say that the notifications are on, keeps us both together. And now onwards with the story. Bijli Sarak Pani was an evocative signal which created a lot of mess for lots of state governments, which is why power sector reforms have been a very, very major issue for state governments. But have they been able to solve it? Not really. And what has been the upshot? The center has tried several times to get into power sector reforms. But because it is a state government issue, the reforms have not really helped. Today, we sit on a massive amount of power, but we don't get electricity in lots of places. But that's a story for another time. Let's look at exams. Exams are a state level issue. Now, this might surprise you, but it's actually true. Just look around. What are the major exams that happen? If you open the newspapers, advertisements for exams taken by state governments, for state police, for state level civil services, state level teachers, state level medical forces, and so on. Similarly, exams from one stage of education to another stage. For instance, from class 10 to class 12, from class 12 to the degree colleges. These are largely taken by the states. And that is where the challenge is. So, what does the center do? The center takes exam for the Union Civil Service, for the Staff Selection Commission, but those numbers are very small. And it takes exam for the Central Board of Secondary Education, which again, compared to the size of the state level secondary education boards, is puny. So, what does that mean? Let's look at it even more in detail. The central level examinations, whether at the, as I said, at the different stages of education, from class 10 to class 12, from class 12 to the universities, the central universities I mean, are fairly clean. You won't find allegations substantiated of corruption in these examinations till now. The same happens with UPSC. There have been enough attempts to sabotage the UPSC exam. It has not worked. The same happens with the IITs, except in 2009, the IITs and IIMs have cleaned up their act. You don't find allegations substantiated for examinations taken by the Central Staff Selection Commission. So, what's the answer? What is happening here? The boys and girls who came out in Jantar Mantar were not chasing a ghost, they were chasing a real problem. Well, the problem is like this. The problem is that all of them face massive cheating, substantiated but not prosecuted, for examinations at every level at the states, mind you. You open a newspaper, any language, and there are quite a few samples here. What happens? You see at every time, even this year, as the Jantar Mantar agitation was going on, you find that there are allegations of cheating in almost all of these examinations. Several times several times, as this report would tell you, exams have had to be postponed at states. So, all the problems happen at the state level, and we will come to why the problems happen at the state level later, but let us look at what is the issue. The problems happen at the state. So, people, young girls and boys get disillusioned. They do not want to chase something which is just really not happening. It is a question of money power. What do? They turn to the center. The central government run examinations are clean, and that has been the record for a long time, till two things happened. Mind you, the IIT examination problem, the IIMs didn't ever have a problem. The IIT examination problem happened only once, but then it's been sorted out. Until now, if you look at the National Testing Agency, the JEE examination, the Joint Entrance Examination for IIT entrance runs on track smoothly. So, where is the problem? The problem occurred in two places, just in two places. One was the medical college entrance examination. Remember, all medical college entrance examinations, excepting the central government run AIIMS and a couple of others, was run by the state governments with the same problems as there in other examinations. Those have recently been taken over, and for the National Testing Agency, it has proved too big a challenge to swallow. Should it have taken over? We can examine that later. But that is one. And the second, the CBSE examination has not been tampered. There has been a hacking, in the sense that smart students have shown that the CBSE examination, question paper system and others can be tampered with. But the CBSE examination by itself is not a fraud prone examination. So, then what is the answer that is the center come up with? Instead of recognizing that this is a state level problem where the state governments have to get in and states have to clean up their act, the center has again rushed in, just as what I said about the power sector reforms, bringing in laws, setting up high powered committees, giving out assurances when none of those really matter. For instance, it's impossible for the central government to take over all the exams in the country. One nation, one exam. Does it happen? It cannot happen. So, what will happen? The states will keep on doing the exams, they will keep on leaking, because that is where the gravy train runs. Center is trying to overextend itself. The National Testing Agency, and you can see here the number of examinations that the National Testing Agency has run over the years. So, the center does not really improve conditions in exams by wading into it. And lastly, if somebody says, oh well, what about the Railway Recruitment Board, another huge set of corruption issues. The Railway Recruitment Board today is therefore something which has gone through a transformation where the center has now taken over the running of the examination. Now, the issue that becomes that what is the steps ahead? First of all, as I said, some exams the center can take over. RRB I talked about, the IIT examinations, the IIM examinations, these can be taken over. Can the medical college examinations be taken over? It is a work in progress. But the point that remains is examinations, public examinations are largely state government law and order problem. These have to be handled by state governments. The more the central government takes over these examinations, states will say, I am not going to spend my police force's energy on policing these examinations. And yes, they have said that. Why? Because any examination that happens, states have to deploy their armed forces. There is a cost to it. Armed forces, the state police forces are inadequately financed. their budgets are stretched. So, for them to do the policing of the exam, knowing that the public opinion is for cheating. Yes, the public opinion often favors cheating. Remember those Bluetooth, remember those all sorts of technological gadgets that come out. The public usually wants that cheating should not be happening, but don't prosecute guys too badly. You know, the exam takers. Despite all the agitation that has happened, let's be very clear. The public essentially doesn't really think that cheating is too bad a deal if it is largely democratic. Otherwise, so many people in so many exams over the years couldn't have been doing cheating. Two chief ministers of Uttar Pradesh have lost their jobs, Kalyan Singh and Mulayam Singh. They lost their jobs when they tried to stop cheating in the state level examinations. So, the answer is not very clear that the public actually hates cheating. And I say this with absolute clear evidence. So, then what happens? The states are not particularly keen to police these exams the way they should be. And in any case, it is not a law and order problem. You can't just generally go around hitting with a lathi a exam taker. You need technology. The states will not invest in that technology if they are not part of the game. So, examination reform has to be a state level apparatus. States have to see that there is a reason, there is a financial benefit, there is a financial understanding which comes along when they get, when they do the exam reforms. Andhra, for instance, Uttarakhand, for instance, Gujarat, for instance, have passed strict laws. It's a question about how much or how strictly will those laws be implemented. The state judiciary, inundated with so many types of difficult cases, would they want to get into an examination related case? Not really. So, what happens? It is a question of whose incentives, whose cost is the examination about, and this is something that each state has to answer. There cannot be a one country, one answer. So, the center, has it done the right thing by moving into this examination thing? Not really, because what it is doing is trying to do it the same way that the power sector reforms were looked at. Instead of looking at it as a state level issue, we are trying to look at examination reforms as a central government led issue. It will not work precisely because the center doesn't control most of the exams that are done. And if that, and since the exams are state level, the answers have to come from the states. And that's all from this edition of 1 Point. Thank you.